Welcome to this Health Bulletin. Today we're doing a deep dive into some really fascinating, important new information.
That's right.
Our mission really is to unpack the latest intel from the World Health Organization, the WHO. They've got their eye on a new SARS-CoV-2 variant.
Yep, it's called XFG.
XFG. And we're pulling our insights from a key COVID PDF file, pretty much hot off the presses. And our goal for you, our listener, you health enthusiasts out there, is to give you the crucial takeaways, maybe some surprising facts, help you get informed quickly, without feeling overwhelmed.
That sounds good. Yeah, it's always interesting to see how the WHO tracks these things.
So let's explore what they actually have to say about this emerging variant.
Okay, so XFG. Officially, it's been designated a SARS-CoV-2 variant under monitoring, a VUM.
The VUM.
That designation happened back on June 25th, 2025. And it's actually one of 7 VUMs that the WHO is tracking right now, globally.
7, so it's not alone on that list.
Yeah, no, definitely not. And this classification, this VUM label, it signals they're watching it closely, methodically. But it reserves those higher labels, like variant of interest or variant of concern, for more immediate threats.
Right. So not quite a red alert situation, but it's definitely on their radar.
Precisely.
Where did XFG actually come from? Is it something brand new or more like a mix of older strains?
It's exactly that, a mix. It's what we call a recombinant variant.
Ah.
Okay, so it formed from 2 existing lineages. You've got LF.7 and LP.8.1.2.
LF.7 and LP.8.1.2.
And the earliest sample we actually have on record for XFG was collected back on January 27th, 2025.
January, so it's been around for a bit then.
A little while, yeah. This constant mixing and matching, the recombination, it really just highlights how relentlessly this virus keeps, evolving, dancing around, genetically speaking.
That genetic recombination is fascinating. It really hints at how the virus keeps trying to reinvent itself.
It does.
So speaking of reinvention, what about the mutations, especially on that, infamous spike protein? How does XFG stack up against variants like JN.1 or NB.1.8.1, the ones that have been more dominant recently?
Well, it does carry a lot of the mutations we saw in JN.1, but what really makes XFG stand out are some key changes on its spike protein, things like N487D and Q493E.
Okay, and those aren't just random changes?
No, not at all. These specific amino acid shifts, they've actually been shown to make it harder for our immune system's first line of defense, those class 1 and class 2 antibodies, to neutralize the virus effectively. It's kind of like a virus has subtly changed the lock, making our existing keys maybe a bit less effective.
Right.
And it has a few other unique ones too, like T22N, S31P, K182R, R190S, 346T, K444R, V445R, F456L, and T572I. And it lost V445H in the process.
Okay, so quite a few specific tweaks, giving it potentially an edge.
Potentially, yes.
So with these changes, how quickly has XFG been spreading? Is it still relatively contained, or is it really starting to make its mark globally?
Well, it's definitely making its mark. Imagine a growth chart just shooting upwards.
Okay.
In just 4 weeks, XFG went from being a pretty minor player. It accounted for about 7.4% of the sequences available globally in epidemiological week 19.
An epidemiological week, that's just the standard tracking week.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just the standard way health bodies track disease trends week by week. So from 7.4% in week 19, it jumped to almost a quarter of all sequences, 22.7% by week 22. That ended June 1st.
Wow, that's a huge leap from 7% to nearly 23% in 4 weeks.
It's a very rapid ascent, yeah.
Yeah.
And as of June 22nd, it's been detected in 38 countries with over 1,600 sequences recorded.
38 countries already. Are there specific regions where it's showing a particularly strong presence or increase?
Absolutely. I mean, it's increasing proportionally pretty much everywhere they're looking, but some regions are seeing a much more dramatic rise.
Like where?
Okay, so take the Western Pacific region. Its proportion jumped from 1.6% up to 6.0%. The region of the Americas, that saw a big jump too, from 7.8% to 26.5%.
Wow. Over a quarter there now.
Yeah. And the European region went from about 10.6% up to 16.7%. But here's where it really gets interesting.
Okay.
In the Southeast Asia region, SEER, XFG's proportion, just surged. It went from 17.3% all the way up to 68.7%.
68%, so it's dominant there.
Completely dominant. It became the prevailing variant in India all through the spring.
Okay, that's significant. What about Africa and the Eastern Mediterranean?
We just have limited sequence data from the African region and the East Mediterranean region so far, so harder to say definitively what the trend is there yet.
Understood. That explosive growth, though, especially in Southeast Asia, definitely catches the eye.
It does.
So the natural next question, particularly with these new mutations we talked about, is how well do our existing defenses hold up? What's the story with immune escape for XFG?
Right. So early lab studies, and these often use what's called a pseudovirus, basically a safer, simplified version of the virus to test things.
Okay, like a stand-in virus.
Exactly. So using those, they found XFG was nearly twice as good at slipping past antibodies that people developed after a BA.5 infection, compared to the LP.8.1.1 variant.
Twice as good, so it does have some immune evasion capability.
It definitely shows a degree of immune evasion, yes. However, and this is important when they looked at how well current vaccines performed, specifically monovalent TOP.2 or LP.8.1 mRNA vaccines in immunized mice. They found these vaccines still generated similar, or maybe only modestly lower, neutralizing antibody levels against XFG compared to the antigens they were designed for.
Okay, so that suggests the current vaccines aren't completely useless against it.
It suggests that while there is some evasion, the current vaccine approaches still seem to offer a decent degree of protection, especially likely against severe disease.
That's a really crucial distinction. Okay, so taking all this into account, the recombination, the specific mutations, its rapid spread, this degree of immune evasion, what's the WHO's bottom line? What's their overall assessment of the public health risk from XFG?
Well, the executive summary from the WHO report is actually quite clear on this. They state that the additional public health risk posed by XFG is evaluated as low at the global level.
Low risk globally. Okay, that's definitely the headline people want to hear.
It is. That's the big takeaway from their assessment right now.
So what does that low risk assessment mean practically? Like for vaccine effectiveness, are our current shots still expected to work?
The current assessment is, yes, positive on that front. Approved COVID-19 vaccines are expected to remain effective against symptomatic and severe disease caused by XFG.
That's good news.
It means that fundamental protection, the kind that keeps people out of the hospital, is still anticipated to hold strong.
And the really critical question, is XFG causing worse illness, more deaths? Because that's what hits home for public health.
Yeah, crucially, the current data do not indicate that XFG leads to more severe illness or more deaths compared to other variants that are circulating. Now, there's a bit of nuance. Some countries, particularly in that Southeast Asia region where XFG really took off, they did report a rise in new cases and hospitalizations around the same time XFG became dominant.
Right, I remember you saying it hit like 68% there.
Exactly. But routine clinical surveillance in those areas hasn't suggested an increase in severity, like more ICU admissions or deaths that's specifically linked to XFG itself.
So more cases overall might mean more hospitalizations just by volume, but not necessarily that XFG itself is inherently more severe.
That seems to be the interpretation, yes. And another reassuring point, XFG doesn't contain additional mutations known to be associated with resistance to key antivirals, like remdesivir and nirmatrelvir.
Okay, so treatments should still work too. That's also very encouraging, especially given how fast it spread. But the WHO's assessment framework, it breaks down risk into different categories, right? Like growth advantage, immune escape, severity. And they often attach these confidence levels. Can you help us unpack those a bit? They sound important.
Absolutely. They're important for understanding the certainty behind the assessment. So for growth advantage, the WHO rates it as moderate risk, but and this is key with low confidence.
Okay, why moderate risk but low confidence? Seems a bit contradictory.
Well, it's moderate risk because, as we discussed, it clearly showed a rapid increase in proportion across several WHO regions. That's undeniable growth.
Right.
But the confidence is low because, well, XFG's expansion is still relatively recent. We're still gathering the full picture or more data points over time. Plus, there's another VUM, NB.1A1.8.1, which is also still growing in some regions. So it makes it a little tricky to definitively isolate XFG's unique growth rate compared to everything else circulating.
Okay, so other things are happening simultaneously.
Exactly. But what is notable is that, based on current comparisons, XFG does seem to have the highest relative growth advantage compared to several other co-circulating variants, like that LP.8.1 we mentioned earlier.
Okay, so it's likely the fastest grower right now, but they need more time and data to be highly confident in quantifying exactly how much faster.
You got it.
What about immune escape? How confident are they in assessing that risk?
For immune escape, it's assessed as low risk, again with low confidence.
Low risk, low confidence again.
Yeah.
Okay.
The low-risk assessment comes because, based on current data, XFG's immune evasion seems to be roughly similar in magnitude to prior JM.1 sublineages. And antigenically, it sort of clusters with those other JM.1 types, meaning from an immune system's perspective, it looks reasonably similar to them.
So not a massive leap in its ability to dodge immunity compared to what we've seen recently.
Apparently not, based on what we know now. But the low confidence is there because, again, the number of studies is limited. They mostly use those pseudoviruses we talked about.
Right, not real-world human data as much.
Exactly. There's an urgent need for more studies using actual human sera, blood plasma, from diverse groups of people vaccinated, previously infected, etc., to really confirm these findings, that real-world data is critical.
Okay, makes sense. And finally, severity and clinical impact, I'm guessing. Low confidence there, too.
You guessed right. For severity and clinical diagnostic considerations, it's also rated low risk with low confidence.
Why low risk and low confidence on severity?
Okay, so low risk because, simply put, there are no reported studies showing it causes more severe disease. And as we said, no signs of resistance to current antivirals.
Right. No red flags in the data we do have.
Correct. But the confidence is low for a couple of really important reasons. First, there just aren't any studies specifically designed to assess XFG's impact on clinical outcomes, like hospital stay length or need for ventilation.
Okay. Lack of specific studies.
And second, and this is critical, there's been a really substantial decrease globally in countries reporting detailed severe outcome data, hospitalizations, ICU admissions, deaths to the WHO.
Ah, so the surveillance itself has weakened.
Significantly. And that makes it really challenging to interpret the routine surveillance trends accurately. If reporting is down, can we truly be confident that severity isn't increasing, or are we just not seeing it as clearly?
That makes perfect sense. So a degree of caution is definitely warranted there. Absolutely.
It's actually quite fascinating, isn't it? That even with something spreading rapidly, the WHO is careful to say low confidence on these crucial points like immune escape and severity. It's not a weakness, really, but it shows the complexity.
It really does.
It signals that even the global experts are working with incomplete data sometimes, which reminds us how dynamic and, frankly, uncertain the early assessment of any new variant really is.
That's a great way to put it.
So given these data gaps, what is the WHO recommending? What should countries be doing to track XFG better and fill in those blanks?
Well, the WHO is giving clear guidance to member states. They're recommending prioritizing specific actions. Things like conducting neutralization assays using actual human sera, ideally, from people living in communities where XFG is circulating.
Getting that real-world immunity data.
Exactly. And also performing comparative evaluations to spot any changes in severity indicators, like hospitalization rates, specifically among those infected with XFG versus other variants. It's all about getting more granular data to boost that confidence level in their assessments. Makes sense. And what about vaccines? You mentioned the current ones seem okay. But with new variants always emerging, does XFG change the thinking on future vaccine updates at all?
That's where the WHO's Technical Advisory Group on COVID-19 Vaccine Composition, or TAGCOVAC, comes in. They're constantly looking at this.
Okay.
Their latest recommendation, which came out on May 15th, 2025, is that using monovalent JN.1 or KP.2 as the vaccine antigen is still appropriate.
So stick with the recent updates?
Pretty much. They also mentioned that monovalent LP.8.1 is a suitable alternative. So basically, the current vaccine strategies seem to be holding up well enough against XFG for now, and no immediate change in the recommended vaccine targets is needed based on this variant.
That's definitely good to hear. It sounds like the whole WHO surveillance approach itself is evolving, shifting maybe beyond just a pure emergency footing.
It absolutely is evolving. You know, the WHO only started doing these specific risk evaluations for VUMs, like XFG, in addition to the VOIs, back in November 2024.
So the VUM category itself is relatively new.
Relatively new, yes, and it reflects this evolving global situation. They needed a more nuanced, tiered system to classify variants as the pandemic landscape changed.
Right.
And another sign of this shift, the international health regulations, the IHR standing recommendations for COVID-19, they're actually set to expire this past April.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but they've been extended now until April 30th, 2026.
Okay, for another couple of years.
Mm-hmm. And that signals this move towards ongoing management of COVID-19 within broader public health programs, integrating it into regular disease prevention rather than treating it constantly as a separate standalone emergency.
So kind of normalizing the response into long-term public health strategy.
That seems to be the direction, yes.
Okay, so let's try and summarize this for you, the listener. What does this all mean? Well, XFG is definitely an emerging variant. It's showing clear growth. It's on the WHO's radar as a variant under monitoring. But, and this is the key part, based on the WHO's latest evaluation, it currently poses a low public health risk at the global level.
Right. Low risk globally.
The good news continues. Currently approved vaccines are still expected to be effective against it, especially against severe disease. And crucially, there is no current indication that XFG itself leads to more severe illness.
That's the picture for now.
And this whole situation, really, it underscores the power and importance of continuous global surveillance, rapid data sharing, how vital that is for managing a dynamic public health situation like this.
Couldn't agree more. It highlights the system working, even with uncertainties.
Exactly. And perhaps connecting this to the bigger picture, it leaves us with something for you to think about.
A final thought.
Yeah. Given this constant evolution of viruses like SARS-CoV-2 and just the dynamic nature of global health threats, what deeper implications does this whole concept of a variant under monitoring really hold, for how we understand public health preparedness and maybe the future of managing infectious diseases overall?
That's a really interesting question to ponder. How do we maintain vigilance without causing unnecessary alarm? How do these tiered systems help us manage resources and attention effectively in the long run?
Food for thought, indeed.